Hola amigos, I switched to Sony from Canon. When? Why? Okay, let's start the story from the beginning. When I decided to try photography and videography, I started to choose which camera to buy. I didn't want to spend much money at that moment, and at that time I decided between two most recognizable brands, Canon and Nikon. After watching some reviews here on YouTube and speaking with my friends, everyone was telling me about some color magic science and autofocus behind Canon brand. So I decided to try with starter model Canon T6. First week I was very happy with this body, but intense learning and mastering my skills showed me that T6 is totally not enough for my needs. I sold very good and quickly T6 body and the same day got myself 760D. For 1 month I was happy with it, but again deep mastering and learning erased all my happiness very quickly. Dull low performance, 5 frames per second, no weather sealing, the quality of materials. As a conclusion, sold again very good 760D and bought myself 80D. There were no limits for my happiness and I've spent next year with my 80D. And most of the time I was almost happy with it. On the other hand, there were some things that bothered me a lot. Very dull low light performance, only 60 frames per second and in PAL even less, 50 frames per second. No 4K, color grading process of video. I couldn't get exact look I wanted. Couple of months ago we got Sony A6500 for couple of days for the test. Big thanks to Sony Ukraine. We made a comparison video of two bodies, 80D and Sony. Overall, Sony was a great little camera, performing perfect in low light, having 4K, 120 FPS, IBIS, 11 frames per second burst mode and other cool features. I will make a link somewhere here in the corner so that you can watch the full video. It was a great camera, but we had only 2.5 days of testing it and I couldn't get used to its size and menu during such short period. Most of my criticisms were associated with external characteristics of this camera and the lack of flip-out screen. And at that moment we decided to stay with Canon. And some of my favorite creators here on YouTube used Canon and I wanted to stay with it too. Couple of days after review, my friend from Spain wrote me. He is a videographer too, using Sony couple of years. He told me, Sergio, I have a spare 6500 and can send it to you. Give it one more chance and try to shoot her a little longer. I, for a long time without thinking, happily agreed to such an experiment. Luckily, after a week Sony arrived, we had a small project to shoot in 4K. So, I've started deep mastering of A6500, picture profiles, log profiles, autofocus, menu. I've shot a project, made color correction, and you know what? Love is evil, because I really started to fall in love with Sony and all the abilities this little body gives you. And after Sony announced full-frame A7 III with its fantastic price-to-features ratio, I already had no doubts. Now, in some time, I can add a great full-frame body in my bag. With the software update 1.05 on 6500, user experience with mobile app got much better. And I figured out that a forward flip screen is a good thing, but totally not a must-have. But what a must-have? It is embodied image stabilization, deeply customizable picture profiles, S-Log, 4K, 11 frames of continuous shooting with a buffer of almost 110 frames and 425 face detection points. Not even speaking about clean HDMI output with 4:2 sampling. For the money you pay, this camera is a beast. Battery life was not so terrible in combat conditions. With extended batteries I never used more than 3 in one shooting, and I like the ability to charge battery through power bank. I've got used to Sony menu in couple weeks and customized all of my settings and function buttons to my taste. Now my workflow is quick and easy. Write down in comments if you want me to make a video about my settings of A6500. Now about 4K. For a long time I was deeply convinced that I don't need it now, because for YouTube 1080p is enough. Most people watch content on their smartphones, few have 4K monitors. But after last client asked 4K video, I started to think and ask myself questions. I really don't need 4K, or it is just self-confidence, because in Canon family 4K ticket is quite expensive. 3.5K for Mark IV body and extra $100 for C-Lock update. I expected from Canon some major changes with 6D Mark II, but it didn't happen. Only change for me as an 80D user was a full frame. I understand that Canon in such way decided to protect higher-end models like 5D and 1DX, but I started to feel that my story with Canon at this moment is one-sided love. Canon has many fans here on YouTube. Many recognizable and talented creators use high-end Canon cameras, 1DX, 5D, and always tell us, gear doesn't matter, while sitting in front of $6K 1DX, but in my opinion, gear matters, and matters a lot. Of course, story and your charisma are the king and the queen, but king and queen must have a throne to sit on, and the throne is your gear. I also started to think about all my content shot in different beautiful places and spots, and you know what, I realized that in 2-3 years it will be almost unusable trash like SVGA and 720p now. That is why 4K is a good investment in the future. You prolong your content life, and again, injections of use from Sony come at affordable price tag. During the time I'm using A6500, I've learned many new things about videography. Thanks to the features in this camera, I started to master deeply color correction science, to work properly with S-Log. And yep, I know, some of you will think now, S-Log with 8-bit color depth, but I'm speaking not about this. I mean that with A6500 I started to grow more and more every day, so that my knowledge is enough to use all of the features in this camera. And new knowledge and skills are the best investment. Why I am telling you all of this? For me it is very hard to change brands of cars, clothes, food, electronics. I get deeply used to things and begin to love them. I believe that there is some kind of soul behind all of this, but sometimes conservatism is not the best feature. We have to look at things wider. With A6500, Sony gave me a good tool for making quality content. This little camera has almost all high-end features that videographers need for an affordable price tag, and sometimes it is no need to be afraid to change something radically. Guys, I really want this channel to be interesting and useful for you and for me, so I would be very grateful for your comments, propositions and questions down below. Hope you like this video, hope you got something interesting and useful for you. Thanks for watching, don't forget to push like button, subscribe, be always inspired, and see you next time.